What is up, Double Blue Country? My name is Ian Miller, and welcome to a very special edition of DBSN Overtime. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our Overtime special for March Madness. In this week's episode, we will bring you a recap and a look ahead in the bracket. To kick it off, let's send it to Ishan, who has an update for us after the first two rounds.
Thanks, Ian. My name is Ishan Chahande, and there were many upsets in this March Madness, so let's recap it. To start, an interesting note, every 9 seed defeated every 8 seed team, essentially being a minor upset. This includes TCU that defeated Ohio State in the first match, 64-66 in a throwing finish. Iowa that defeated Clemson, 67-61. St. Louis that blew out Georgia, 102-77. And Utah State, which defeated Villanova, 86-76, after having 3 players score more than 20 points. In the South, 11 seed Virginia Commonwealth defeated North Carolina 82-78 in a close one after Terrence Hill Jr. dropped 34 off the bench. Additionally, in the South, 10th seed Texas A&M defeated 7th seed St. Mary's 63-50 after Rashawn Agee dropped 22 and held Texas A&M to 50 points offensively. The largest first-round upset came in the West, where High Point won their first ever NCAA tournament game when they knocked off 5th-seeded Wisconsin 83-82. Chase Johnson scored his first 2-pointer of the season when he scored the go-ahead shot to take the lead with 10 seconds remaining to give the Panthers the lead. The Panthers would eventually win the game. Additionally, in the West, 11th seed and first 4 survivor Texas knocked off AJ DeMance's Brigham Young University Cougars 79-71 as the Longhorns' Matas Vokitidis scored 23 points and had 16 rebounds to complete the double-double. Now let's move on to round 2. The defending national champions, who were the 1 seed, the Florida Gators, were knocked out by the 9 seed Iowa Hawkeyes as Hawkeye Alvaro Figueres scored a go-ahead 3 to take the 73-72 lead, solidifying the win after Gator Xavier Lee failed to get off a shot to give them the win. Additionally, Texas continued their Cinderella run to the Sweet 16, where they defeated the Gonzaga Bulldogs. The Longhorns won this as a team effort with 4 players in double-digit points. Looking out to the Sweet 16, it looks like there will be a lot of good matchups, and hopefully we'll have a few good upsets there too. Alright, that's it for my segment. Let's send it back to Ian.
Great stuff, Ishan. It was an exciting first 2 rounds. Now, let's send it to Tyson and Kevin, who are covering the Midwest and West regions of the bracket.
Thank you, Ian. I'm Kevin Lanaza alongside
Tyson Mount.
We are going to do the Week 16 Midwest and West side of the bracket. First up, we're going to go through Arizona versus Arkansas. Tyson, what are your thoughts about both of these teams?
So I think that Arkansas is a top 3 team right now. They're playing very well, coming off an SEC tournament win. They're the champions of the SEC, and I think that Darius Acuff could be a top 5 pick. So I think that he will make this game very close for Arizona. But I think Arizona is the most complete team so far in the tournament, and I will be picking Arizona.
Yeah, so I think Arizona, they're a very physical team, very athletic. They play at a very fast pace also. They do turn over the ball a lot, though.
Yep.
For Arkansas, offensively, very, very good offensively. Their transition scoring is very good also. Defensively could be better. They kind of seem like they don't try on the defensive end of things. I think this is going to be a closer game than people think. I do think Arizona is still going to win, though. So now let's go to the next game, Purdue versus Texas.
I like Texas. They're a very tall team. They have Volkatitis. They're a big guy. He's 7 foot tall. And I think he can make this interesting for Oscar Clough and the Boilermakers.
So what's your pick?
I think Texas could pull it out.
Texas. For me, so Texas, they don't really have a go-to scorer, I don't feel like. They can't really close games also. They're a very well-coached team, and they just beat Gonzaga, number 3. Purdue, they do work at a slower tempo, but they're very good at making the extra pass, finding the open man. And they have a good team chemistry. So for that, I do think Purdue will win the game.
Purdue is a very good shooting team with Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith.
Yeah. Braden Smith just broke the record for the most assists, actually. Yeah.
Yep.
The next game, we have Michigan versus Alabama.
I think that Michigan will pull this one out. They have also another well-rounded team with Yaxel Enderberg, Ade, Mara, and a lot of guards. A lot of depth in this team. And Alabama just lost Aiden Holloway, and they only really have LeBaron Philon, who is probably going to be a lottery pick. So I will go with Michigan.
Yeah, kind of the same. I'm kind of the same also with Michigan. Alabama recently lost a really good player due to legal reasons. But before that even happened, Alabama turned the ball over a lot also. They have good shooters on the team like LeBaron. They have a fast tempo. They do lack physicality. But Michigan, even though Michigan does make some bad decisions, they are a really good size team. They get a lot of rebounds. And they've also they've killed teams this year, especially in the regular season. They didn't just win games, they actually just killed their opponent. So, yeah, I think Michigan will win this game.
Yep.
And now the last game, Tennessee versus Iowa State.
I personally have Tennessee. This might be a little bit biased, but I'm a Tennessee fan. I think Tennessee, they're very inconsistent, but I think they will pull it over Iowa State because Joshua Jefferson, their best scorer, their best big, is out of the game. He injured one of his legs. Ankle. And I think that Tennessee has a lot of chemistry and they have a lot of momentum going into this game. Their best shooter, Jacoby Gillespie, just went off against Virginia. So I think they're a very well-coached team with Rick Barnes, and I think they'll get it done.
Yeah, Tennessee, they're very offensively inconsistent. They're very good at rebounding the basketball, though, especially on the offensive end, and they also have a reliable scorer in Nate Ament, kind of more of like a Kevin Durant type build. Iowa State did lose Joshua Jefferson to an injury, but Iowa State very good at defense. They create a lot of turnovers, and with the Tennessee offensively inconsistent, it could be kind of a nightmare matchup for Tennessee, to be honest. So I think Iowa State will win the game.
Yeah, this could be a very high-scoring or a very low-scoring game. It could go either way in both teams' favor, but that will wrap it up for this segment, and thank you.
Thanks, guys. Rounding out a look at the bracket, let's send it to Jack and Dylan for a look at the East and South regions.
My name is Dylan Dixon.
And I'm Jack Carter.
And now we're going to talk about the other side of the bracket, which is the South and the East region. To get us started off, we'll talk with the South region, where the first game will start on March 26th at 7:30 p.m. It is between Iowa and Nebraska, where Iowa just came off arguably the biggest upset of the tournament, knocking out the first one seed, Florida. This started with Florida coming back on a late push towards the end of the game, where towards the end, Iowa had a shooter wide open in the corner because Florida played a full court press, and then Florida went down on the other end to try and score. But at the end, Xavier Lee, he decided to pass the ball rather than just go up for a simple layup, leading Iowa to the win.
Yeah, I really like how Iowa plays. They beat one seed Florida, like you said, but Bennett Sturtz, their best player, didn't have a good game. He was 0 for 9 from 3. I really like how they control the tempo. I think they can go fast, they can go slow, and they're a really well-coached team.
Yeah, that's one of the things with Iowa. They play a different style of offense than many other teams do, which forces teams like Florida to have to play a little bit of a different defense, which they're not used to completely.
Yeah.
On the other side, it's Nebraska. They defeated number 5 Vanderbilt, which was technically an upset as they weren't the favorite in the game. Vanderbilt was favored, and a lot of people had Vanderbilt going to either the Elite Eight or the Final Four, so this was a pretty big win for Nebraska, I'd say. This was held off towards the end as Tyler Tanner tried to shoot a game winner, and it almost went in, but it went in and out of the rim, and it was one of the craziest endings we've seen to a game in quite a bit.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt got really unlucky with that shot. But Nebraska, they're really an average team, but a very good average team. They don't have many great scorers that are going to the NBA and be great players, but they're a really well-coached team. they play a good style of basketball. So I really like Nebraska in this one, but I don't know. It's between these two. These are two tough teams to pick.
Yeah, I agree with Jack. I do think Nebraska is going to win in this game, though. I just don't think Iowa has enough. And as this is two Big Ten teams, so they've seen each other play before, I just think Nebraska is the better overall team, and I think their Cinderella story for them, as they've never won a tournament game until this year, is going to continue, and they'll go to the Elite Eight, and we could even see a Final Four run out of them.
Yeah, I like that pick.
Yeah. The second game in the South region is Illinois and Houston. This is a kind of interesting game as it's a good defensive team versus a really big scoring team. So Illinois scores a lot. They blow everybody out, it seems, and they just can't be stopped from beyond the arc. Houston, on the other end, is a big defense team. Their coach is a defensive-minded coach, and he plays a tighter defense. But this year, they seem to be able to score a little bit. They've blown quite a bit of their opponents out this year in the tournament.
Yeah, I think that makes them really dangerous. They scored 88 on Texas A&M, and I think stopping Illinois is going to be very key in this game. But I think Houston does have to put up points. I think Illinois is going to keep it close the whole game, but Houston's going to have to score, I think, in the second half a lot. They're going to have to, because Illinois, I believe after the first half, they're going to make some changes, they're going to make some adjustments, and they're going to be able to score. So I think Houston has to be able to score, especially from three, to beat Illinois.
Right, as Illinois does score 85 points per game, and Houston only gives up 62 points per game. That's a big margin of points for versus points against. So it's one of those things where if it's a defensive game, I think it'll swing in Houston's way. But if it's an offensive game, I think Illinois has a chance to win.
Yeah, I think it can go back and forth if it's a high-scoring game. But I think Kingston Fleming's the freshman for Houston. I think he's going to be very key in this game, defensively and offensively controlling the tempo.
Yeah, I agree. I think Houston's going to win. I don't think it'll be a blowout like both of these teams have been doing to other teams. But I do think that Houston will come away with a short 5-point victory. Say in the national championship last year, they lost by 2, giving up 65. I think it'll be like a 62-58 showdown. It just has to be a defensive game in order for Houston to win.
I agree with that. I think it'll be upwards of like 70, so I'm going to go, I think 72, like 68. I'm going to go with Houston on that one. I think Illinois makes a late push in the second half, but I think Houston has enough to hold them off.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're going to move to the East region now. So we're going to have the 1-seeded Duke against St. John's. So Duke, they have just been injury filled this entire tournament. They finally got back their center, Pat Ngungba. He against TCU, who's very good interior defensively, so they need to get that back against St. John's. Their forwards and bigs are really important for them, so if they want to play good defense, they need to have Ngungba and Boozer play well underneath.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on the side of Duke's a little bit overrated, as I was there for the game against TCU just this past weekend, and the momentum wasn't for Duke the whole way. I get it, they won by 20, but it seemed like TCU was in that game more than they weren't, and it seemed like Duke was just kind of handed the game. They couldn't really do much in the first half. They only had, a 4-point lead, I think?
I think 4,
going into halftime. And TCU got ice cold, and then every foul started to go against TCU, leading to them getting ice cold, and Duke getting in the bonus fairly early, which led everything to be a free throw for them.
Yeah, I think especially for TCU, that was kind of unfortunate. Getting all their bigs, I think Xavier Edwards fouled out late in the game, but he had 4 fouls coming down the stretch, so that was detrimental to them losing him, especially because Boozer's tough down low. He gets fouled a lot because of how strong he is. But I think that was unfortunate for TCU getting the bonus that early.
Yeah. St. John's on the other end, great coach, Rick Pitino. He's one of the best coaches the sport has seen. I just think overall they are more complete as a team right now. They started fairly slow, but then they kind of snuck themselves back into the top 25, and now they're a 5 seed. So I just think St. John's is a little bit more complete right now, whereas Duke has all these injuries. St. John's seems fairly healthy, and I think they could win. I do have St. John's winning, even though originally I had Duke going to my Final Four, but now I think St. John's will win just because of Duke's injuries and St. John's being a little bit more healthy.
Yeah, I think for St. John's, this worked for UNC against Duke. They have to get Cam Boozer in foul trouble. He had, I think, 2 early fouls against North Carolina, and when North Carolina beat them. So if they can get Boozer in foul trouble, I think that'll be the key. But I have Duke. I'm a Duke fan, so I got to have my boys. But I have them winning, I think, by 5. I think 72, 67 or something like that. But I think another key for Duke is they're going to have to hit from beyond the arc. They've been ice cold this entire tournament. Isaiah Evans, who's their sniper from downtown, he's went 2 for 8 in both of these games from 3. So he's got to be able to make around 40%, I think, for them to win, especially as a team too.
Yeah.
And then our second game in the East region, or the last game, is UConn and Michigan State. I think for UConn, it has to be rebounding. Their center, Terrace Reed, he had 27 rebounds in the first round and 13 in the second round. So that's going to be super important against Michigan State, who likes to play in transition. So they can get those rebounds, they can slow the tempo down. Don't allow offensive rebounds from Michigan State. I think that's really important.
Yeah, no. I think UConn has a good chance. They've been to the dance. They were back-to-back national champions before last year. I think Dan Hurley's a great coach, but I don't think he's as good as Tom Izzo. I think Tom Izzo's a better overall coach, just in general, and I think he's going to have Michigan State prepared. I think Jeremy Fears is better than Solo Ball, even though Solo Ball has been to the dance. I do think Michigan State is just a little bit of a better team than UConn is, and I think that'll carry them enough because I think they're going to the Final Four now.
Yeah, I like UConn in this game because I like how Danny Hurley's going to get them fired up. I think he's a really energetic coach. He brings that to the table. But for UConn, they've shot terrible in this tournament from 3. They shot 20%, 33%. So if they want to win, which I do have them winning, they're going to need to hit from 3. And Michigan State, they have to win the turnover battle, get in transition, like I said, get Cohen Carr in transition, slam those dunks home. And they have to stay hot from beyond the arc. They've shot 50% from 3, 42% against Louisville. So if they want to win, they have to be able to hit threes, which they have.
Right.
And they've won. So.
I mean, this game is only a 2-point spread. I think it's going to be
really
it's
close.
going to swing either way. But again, like I said, I'm just going to have to ride with Michigan State. I think it's finally their time. They've had some issues in this past year, but this is probably the best Michigan State team we've seen since the Denzel Valentine days, in my opinion. So I just think they're going to end up winning and maybe going to the Final Four.
Yeah, I like that pick. But I still have UConn. I think rebounding for them, again, like I said, it's going to be really important. And I think Michigan State, they're a little, young, I would say. Jeremy Fears, he's a little young. I think UConn has an experienced coach. Not that Michigan State doesn't, but that he's won back-to-back titles. He knows how to win in March. And I think that's going to be really important. So I have UConn winning this game.
Yeah, I think that's a great take. That is all we have for the South and East regions of the bracket. And now let's send it back to Ian.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to DBSN Overtime's March Madness special. With the Sweet 16 beginning tomorrow, be sure to tune in to the games. As always, also be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on all of our social media accounts. For DBSN, this has been Ian Miller.